So I downloaded the MakeHuman plugin for Blender, or MPFB2 for short, which is a free-to-use, open-source 3D human character generator for Blender. So you can create a new human and select the presets and create human. And then under the model tab, you can adjust all of the sliders. So it's pretty much has all the same functionality as the original program. You can change the height and the age. So, and of course, we have all of the other configurations if you want to change all that. So then you can go to apply assets, and if you want to add the clothing, it says the rig is not attached, so you'll want to go to the rigging tab and add a rig. Now you can go back to the clothing and load the clothes. If you want to see the actual texture, change the shading setting at the top, and you can hide the rig to just see the character, and then apply skin, and hair, and the eyes. So it's pretty intuitive. And then you can export this character to use it in your cinematic or 3D game, whichever. So the idea is, since Godot is integrated with blend files, I should be able to export the assets much easier than using the MakeHuman standalone program. For installation and further usage instructions, you can go to the MakeHuman channel. I'll put a link to getting started with MPFB2 in the description. So this will walk you through installing the plugin and the system asset pack, which just has the default skins and clothing in it. And there are many more assets that you can download from the MakeHuman team and other creators as well. So I definitely recommend watching this video. The plugin uses shapekeys to deform the mesh, so I wanted to demonstrate how those work. In a new project in Blender, I'll delete everything but the default cube. Then on the sidebar, select the green triangle, which is the data attributes. And with the cube selected, click the plus under the shape keys to create the default shape. Then add a new shape key. This will be key 1, but you can rename it if you want. So you'll set the value to 1, and then go to edit mode. And these will be grayed out, so you can't change them while you're editing. And then you can make sure you're in the vertex selection mode. So I'll select the top 2 vertices and move them over like so. Then if I go back to object mode, I can change the value of the key 1 to make the cube deform. Also, if you add a second key and turn it all the way up, leave the first key at 0, and go back to edit mode, select the bottom 2 vertices and move those in. So now if I go back to object mode, you can see that the shape keys are relative, so they can both affect the same vertex. So this is essentially how MakeHuman does all of the model editing. So now if I save this as a blend file, and I'll just turn both of the shape keys down and save this. So now I can drag the blend file into a new Godot project and let it import the asset. And then I'll create a 3D scene and drag the cube as a object in the scene. So you can right click and make local, and then on the mesh node, click the blend shapes, and as you can see, they are editable in Godot, which is the goal. And you can make the values negative so they go in the other direction. So that is what we want for the MakeHuman models, is for these blend shape keys to be editable through Godot, and then you can map these to an animation or change them through the code, whatever you need to do. So now I'll make a new project in Blender. And click on the arrow next to the axis if the tool menu isn't showing. I'll make a new human from scratch using the default settings. And under the data key, you can see that it has generated some of the shape keys. Now if you go to the Model tab and adjust the values, you can see that it adds additional shape keys. So now you can adjust the height and it's the same for all of the other. So as you adjust the settings, it will add more shape keys to the project. So I'll go ahead and save this in the Godot project as a blend file and wait for it to import into Godot. Now, instead of dragging the blend file directly into the scene, you can double-click it to open up the import settings and click on the mesh and enable save to file, and we'll set the name to human.res. Then I'll make a new scene, and you'll want to use a rigid body or a kinematic probably. And then you can drag the resource and reset the transform. So what this does is when you save the blend file, it will automatically update the resource, whereas if you drag it and make it local, then you have to redo that every time you resave the file, which is not ideal. So this will automatically update. Now you can see on the right here, we have the skeleton and surface material override, but the shape keys are not appearing in the editor. So the reason the shape keys aren't showing up is if you go back to Blender and click on the blue wrench for the modifiers, you can see it's using a subtraction modifier to hide the helper geometry. So normally you could apply the modifier, but it says modifier cannot be applied to a mesh with shape keys, so that won't work. So for now, I'll just remove the modifier. And now you can see the helper geometry, which is used for creating the hair and clothing assets. So I'll save the blend file and let it re-import into Godot. So now you can see the shape keys have been added, and to get rid of the burqa, just set the surface material override to a new material and set the transparency cull mode to disabled. So now you can see the character, and as you can see, the shape keys do still modify. So you can see some of them are easier to notice than others. There's the height slider. So these do still work. Now it's just a matter of removing the helper geometries. And I'm not exactly sure how to do that. If you go to the vertex groups under the data tab, which correspond to the vertex groups under the model, so you can delete all of the helper geometry vertex groups, but it doesn't seem to actually do anything. As you can see, all of the clothing and hair are still attached to the model. So I'll have to figure out how to remove those properly. Next, I wanted to talk about the clothing. So you'll have to apply the rig as we did before. Under rigging, add rig. I'm not sure what the difference between the rigify and standard rigs are. Then under Apply Assets, you can add the clothing and change the viewport shading. So the issue here is when you change the character's proportions, the body will change, as you can see, but the clothing is static once it's generated. So if you change the body settings, you'll need to go back to the clothes library and re-equip the outfit. And these do not have the shape keys. So here's the female casual suit object. And you can see it still has the vertex groups, but the shape keys are missing. So that's sort of a problem. I did figure out how to assign the clothing shape keys in Go MakeHuman, which uses the original MakeHuman program. So you'll leave the character on the default settings, and then under the community you can find the casual dress, right here, and download whichever one you want. And then under the geometries, apply the summer dress. And then you can export as a collada. Make sure the scale units are set to meter. And I'll export to my documents. Next, I'll open up the blend file that comes with the Go MakeHuman open source project, and I'll put a link to that in the description. So select the collection 1 and import a collada file. Navigate to the export folder, and you can see that it lines up with the current model. So I'll remove the eyes and body, so I just have the clothes, the dress left, and I can hide the other meshes, so we just have the one that I exported. So this needs to go up a little bit since we're using different versions. So pretty much just line it up. And then assign the skeleton under object, or the parent. Set the skeleton as the parent object, like so. So once you have the dress lined up, and I did scale it on the y-axis a little bit so it doesn't clip, then with the dress selected, go to the Data tab and add a new shape key. This will create the basis, which is the default transform. Then click the blue wrench to add a modifier and add the surface deform to the summer dress. And we'll set the target to the body object and click bind. Then go to the body object and under data, choose one of the shape keys. So I'll do woman 1. And you can see that the dress has morphed with the body. So then go back to the dress and click the arrow to apply the deform as a shape key. Apply a shape key. And then under data, rename this to woman 1, which was the name of the key. So now you can turn this all the way up, and in Godot, you'll automatically link so it changes together. So I'll go ahead and add another one. And you do have to, so I'll set the values back down to 0 for the woman 1 shape key on both. Then I'll add the modifier, and you have to do this for every shape key that is affected by the dress. So obviously, like the face and head deformations you won't need to apply, but pretty much everything with the body. So set the target to the body and bind the modifier, and then go back. So I'll do the fat modifier, turn that all the way up, go back to the clothes modifier and apply as shape key, and then rename the shape key. So this is kind of the worst case scenario. I assume it will be a similar process to bind the clothing with the new plugin, but hopefully I'll be able to extract these shape keys somehow and I won't have to manually do it by hand. So, but if I save this and import it into the Godot project, which I have a video on, I think 2 episodes ago, I covered how to import these into Godot, so I'll go ahead and do that. So I imported the dress into Godot. Basically, you'll open the blend file and save the mesh to a .mesh file, and then open up the generate scene and add the name of the clothing to the list here, and then run the generate scene, and it will generate the meshes with the shape keys, and then you'll have to assign the material manually as well. So now if I run the project and add the dress, when I slide the obesity level, it morphs with the body shape. So that's working. Then I was able to get the animation for the dance to play that was included in the original version of the project. I did have to move some nodes around in the import process, and you can rename the individual targets as well. So that was kind of tedious, but I was able to get it pointed at the skeleton, and the bones are actually embedded in the skeleton, so these are directly from Blender, although I think you can generate nodes from this as well. So I'll tell it to auto-load the dance on autoplay the dance on load. And you can see the dress and jeans that came with the project are correctly attached to the skeleton, but the dress that I just added is not yet, so there are still some more steps to get it completely working. He does include a video for attaching clothes to the skeleton in the project, so I'll watch this and try to figure that out. Speaking of animations, I found a whole library of them called Mixamo, and it works with the MakeHuman model. So you'll go to Community and search for rigs and use the CMU default hybrid, or maybe the CMU plus face may also work. And then you'll under pose animate set the skeleton to the CMU default hybrid that you downloaded, and now you can export this model to an object, leave the settings as they are, so now that you have the object, then I'll open up the mixamo.com by Adobe, and it's free to make an account. I believe you're free to use the animations in your game, but you'll probably want to check the license. So you'll click upload a character, drag the object that you exported, and there is a plugin for Mixamo for Blender as well, so you'll have to assign the points on the model, but I'm assuming the plugin will work better. I just learned about this after I learned about the MakeHuman plugin, so I'm just exploring my options right now. But this is pretty cool. They have an extensive library of different poses. I'll need a walk animation, run, sleep, melee attack, ranged attack, lots of interacting. So as you can see, it successfully rigged the character. There's some clipping with the skirt, but you'll want to animate the character without clothes. This is just for example. So now you can click on any animation, and there are some different settings you can change here as well. So pretty much you'll find the ones that you need, and then you can download this as an FBX file, and then you can open that back up in Blender or Godot and merge the skeleton, merge to the current skeleton with the animations. So that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this devlog, and I'd love to hear what you think about it. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.